Welcome back, world. I'm here on the show today with a special guest that has been on here before, Jordan Richardson, aka Jungle Rose, one of my great friends that I've had a lot of great, intellectual conversations with. And previously, when he was on this show, we went into a lot of good details about his fashion brand, Jungle Rose. He really talked about his passion for dance and fashion. We also went into stocks a little bit, which was a great conversation. And we talked about real estate as well. And that actually, transitions into what we're going to specifically talk about within this content. We're going to really detail like how to analyze a deal. We're going to go over, the importance of building a team and how Jordan has been able to build a team successfully and vertically integrate the process. So he's saving a lot on costs and being able to build equity within his business. And then we're also going to go into like how you can get started and what are some of the things you should be looking for in the current real estate climate, and just really going over the numbers. Because I think that when it comes to real estate, you want to understand, your criteria of what specific type of real estate you're looking at. You want to know your terms, know your numbers, know what you're expecting to get out of the deal going into the deal. And then also, like I mentioned, with building a team, having a strong network that can help you with finding the deal. So stay tuned throughout this episode, and welcome, Jordan. I'm glad you're here today. How's it going? Are you Are you
I'm
good?
blessed, man. No complaints, man. I'm happy to be alive. Just grateful for another day to pursue my dreams, man, and excited to be here.
Oh, of course, man. So to get everything started, I love your approach when it comes to like the investor versus the consumer mindset. You can use that a lot, whether it's not just real estate, but just in life in general, just investing in general, in yourself. I think, you have to have an investor mindset. But when it comes to real estate, can you kind of talk about like when you're going into deals, and just even in this current real estate climate, the mindset a person needs to have versus, an investor versus a consumer mindset?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, before I do that, let me I guess give my little bit of an intro help folks understand exactly what it is that I do in real estate. So,
Yeah.
um, I specifically came from the solar development realm. I did a lot of commercial utility scale solar development. So when you drive down a highway and you see farms of like 200, 300 acres of solar farms, like that was me. You know what I mean? I loved it. It was really awesome. It taught me a lot. It taught me how to be a general contractor. It taught me how to be a developer, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is the skill set and the art set of developing the deal. So I'm based here in South Bend, Indiana. I primarily deal with residential real estate, so single family, multifamily, quadplex, etc., which is also a multifamily, just going up from 1 to 4 doors. And we primarily buy undervalued assets, right? And we essentially smash them to the studs. That means that basically we're going into a project and we're demoing the whole project from the inside. Sometimes the external, but usually it's majority on the inside, so that you can see only the studs. Usually when you go into a house, you don't think about there's something holding the wall up. There's a skeleton to the house, so we take all that stuff out and we start fresh, right? And then we essentially build this project out fresh and brand new, and then we turn that property over and then lease that property or rent that property to Section 8. In the city of South Bend, and really across the nation, there's a shortage of places for people to stay. And so, when I was on the solar side of things, we used to always say, like, man, solar is tough because you have to find someone to buy the power. You have to find someone that believes in renewable energy and then buy the power. Well, that's what prompts you to develop a solar project. You have to have a client that says, "Oh, I want that." But it also has to be at a perfect price point, right? Well, with housing, there is such a shortage of housing that it's like an infinite contract. If you can go out and develop the deal, it's an infinite contract with it. So you're able to just have like your sales pipeline is infinite, right? Like, think about it for a minute. Like, you're literally tapping into a market that's larger than what you could ever supply. So all you have to do is be good at developing the deal. So that's essentially what we do, and we're really excited to be able to provide people with really quality, dope places to live, man. Especially in the realm of Section 8. I mean, we talked to the offices around the country, and when they see the work that we're doing, they're like mind blown. They're like, I can't believe you're doing this, and I'm like, it's all in the numbers.
Yeah, man, I really like, the mentality, as far as your background with learning a lot about developing and learning, on the solar side, it's probably helped you a lot when it just comes to contracting. I know we'll get through that. We'll get into that later throughout this episode, but I think that skill set has really helped you a lot with being able to develop properties and being able to look for opportunities. So,
absolutely,
we had talked about this offline, but I loved how you said the reason why you love real estate is because it's one of the oldest asset classes that we can think of, and it's one of the largest subscription plans that's available to us. Can you kind of talk on that?
Yeah, so I mean, you got to think about it, right? Like, how long have mankind needed a place to live? Like the term landlord goes back eons, right? But the point is that not eons, but a long time, right? Longer than most business formations and or business classes, like your different areas of business have been around. Like, so for example, I mean, think about the energy sector, right? Where I was at, oil and gas. You know what I mean? Like, when you think of real estate and having a place to live, and some even in terms of like banking, like some of these industries are old. And so when you're stepping into these industries with something that's new and creative, like you're really stepping into an infinite ability to rake in cash. So I think real estate is the oldest. It is the oldest game in the book, one of the oldest games in the book, and it also creates a vast amount of opportunity.
Yeah, no.
You go to pay your rent. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. You go to pay your rent, right? You're paying a subscription to live, right? It's the oldest subscription business in the book. I mean, so imagine like, when they had like little shave. Obviously, I ain't shaved in a minute, but when you were paying to get in that subscription, you were paying for an unnecessary item that you just paid for on the monthly, right? But now think about it like something that you actually need, like healthcare, like insurance, places to live, right? Maybe a car. You really don't need a car, but you definitely need a place to live, right? So when you get into real estate and you get on this side of developing properties, you're literally stepping into a subscription business that has been around forever and probably ain't gonna ever go anywhere because you will always need a place to live. Like, it's a basic formation of life. It's a basic necessity of life.
Yeah, it is. I mean, everyone needs a place to live, and you either are on the right side where you are a landlord, you're getting cash flow, or you're on the other side where it's a liability where you're putting out money to pay to the landlord, but you don't own anything with the property. You're just renting. And everybody's situation is different, but I think that if you are a renter, you just have to shift that mindset to understand that you want to get on the opposite side of actually owning the property, and getting some cash flow so it works in your favor. And so I actually wanted us to get into really analyzing a deal. I love how you break down your numbers, and I know you use a great method called the BRRR method, which is just buying. Rehab, rent, refinance. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep.
So, I love that strategy. Bigger Pockets is actually the one that I first heard it from. But yeah, can we kind of walk through like an actual property that you've either invested in, and kind of go over those numbers of how you like to, analyze your analysis?
Hey, Gucci man was saying something to the streets, man, and people did pick up on in that BRRR method. It's so crazy. I like. I'm about to get our Property Bros. Property Bros is the name of my company. I'm about to get of that real estate company that I started. Not Property Brothers, but Property Bros. We took a rip off of that. We kind of a little bit urban with it.
Yeah.
So we needed Bros. But I'm gonna get a little T-shirt made. I'm gonna just have a bird, right, and the snowman on the side because I was like, hey, Gucci man was something when he had that going. But
Sure.
yeah, man, let's get into it. So I'm actually going to walk you through a deal that I'm actually in the process of refinancing, and so I'll walk you through what this BRRR is. I'll show you the beginning of that situation, that site, how we got into it, what the budget was, and how we're going to come out of that, because it's all in the exit. Just like stock investing, right? Crypto investing, any type of investing. What screws these new investors up is that they don't know how to buy anything. And the reality is, once you know how to buy one thing, you can buy anything the same way. Let that sink in. If you go buy a new car that's just got 2021 Jeep, I love Jeeps. You go buy a 2021 Jeep today, you're going to pay what? Top dollar. Why? Because the Jeep is at the top of the market. Why? Because it just is, right? But if you were to let a couple of years go by, if you were to let the rental car industry kind of do its thing, and then there'd be like a dip, and then you go buy the car, and then if you would have did that a couple of years ago, your then 2019 Jeep in 2021 would be worth a crap ton of money, right? Because you bought it at a dip and you let the market then take it back up, and there's things that influence the market. So this scenario is the same with real estate. It's the same with stock, same with crypto. You buy at a constant. People ask me all the time, like, Jay, were you worried about the market? Like, oh my God, it's so high. This hot. And it's like, only novice, I shouldn't say novice, but only everyday people are looking at the market that way. People that are investors that have been studying this game for decades or have been investing boots on the ground for decades, and it's just another day. It's just another market cycle. Why? Because the market cycles, right? So, but the way you get out of being hit massively by that market cycle is doing what? Buy at a constant discount. So when the market does cycle around, it doesn't cycle around and slap you in the face and knock you out, right? Mm-hmm. So even in a hot market, I'm not paying top dollar. Why? That's foolish, right? So what we do is we establish a constant in a hot market, a soft market, a medium soft market, and we just keep executing consistently. We call this on the stock side dollar cost averaging.
I was just about to say that dollar cost averaging.
Well, every day I'm same play over and over again. You'll look up 10 years from now, and your boy off in Jamaica somewhere on the island. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that I want to walk y'all through the deal. I'm going to show you how it happens. So, can you see my screen okay? No, you can't. Hold on. All right, let's get it. Let me know if that comes in okay.
Oh, yeah, that's very clear. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Okay, so because I came from that solo development world, what we had to be really good at doing is analyzing them. Analyzing numbers. Because on that side, we weren't playing with 200,000, 300,000. We're playing with millions, like millions of dollars. Now, one mistake, I remember one time I developed a project and the ground wasn't as flat as we thought it was. It was $80,000 to fix dirt, right? So you could imagine the sensitivity that this model and that what I'm building into like a real estate development company to be able to like bring that level of heat to this game. So long story short, this model pretty much was self-developed, and it helps me analyze a deal in about 5 minutes, right? 5 to 10 minutes. So the first thing I start out with is an address, right? That's important, right? You got to have a place to look at. Then you have a seller's price. If you're pulling deals off the MLS, people ask me all the time, like, hey, Jay, do you get deals off the MLS if the numbers work? Mm-hmm. But other than that, sometimes I'll drive for dollars, I'll go out in the neighborhood and I'll see a boarded up house and I'm like, I'm tracking numbers. I'm trying to see if there's a for sale sign. I look at the tax card, and I'm looking at names, and I'm calling. Hey, I went by, I saw your house. Sometimes they pick up, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say, hey, give me a number. And I'm like, I make them an offer. Sometimes it's too low for them, and I keep going. But the point is that I just keep into it. I keep mining, and look for the deal, until those numbers work. And when the numbers work, the numbers work. So the point is that for this example, this project was on the MLS for $64,000. It's 1,400 square feet, right? And so I understand also where I'm investing. A key thing to understanding like your market strategy is knowing where you are investing at, right? I know the city pretty much like the back of my hand. So I know all of the initiatives that are going on in the city. I know what the big players are doing in the city. I know that the city, in this specific neighborhood, I'm watching sidewalks get repaved. Like, an investor mentor told me that whenever you see people running in the neighborhood, like just casually jogging in the hood, he was like, get ready. When you see sidewalks, how they got like the little red sidewalks, like the little red endings where it's kind of bumpy, like bump, 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 so you don't slip and fall.
Mm-hmm.
When you start seeing that, get ready. When you start seeing bigger players, right, talk about market trends, Starbucks, stores start like coming in within a distance, like maybe on the outskirts of the community. Get ready, because all of these are market analysis tools that we use to know, this area is ripe for development. Let's go get that. So long story short, we the first thing we look at is comps, right? A comp is a comparable, right? It's a property that has sold, and what you want to do is you want to compare your subject property to those properties that are selling. Now, the key here is that there's parameters, right? You just can't go out and grab any property. You don't just you don't just say, hey, I got this property, it's $64,000. I think it can be sold at $200,000. No. Everything is data driven, right? That's how we analyze the deal. So we look for the most recent sold homes that have similar square footage, the same bedroom, the same bathroom, or close, really close, like half bath versus one half. That's fine. But don't be saying like 2 bathroom versus 6 bathroom. Like that, you can't compare. That's not comparable. But a 2 bathroom, as you can see, is comparable to a 1.5 bathroom. That's fine. So what we do is we go through, we find similar square footage, and you notice that they're all within a mile, right? You don't want to be looking at properties, that are 10 miles away. That's not comparable to you. Just like you would look at a stock that wasn't in the same sector. It doesn't make sense. Like, you want to be able to compare this apples for apples, right? This stock game, crypto game, all this stuff. Investing is a skill set. And once you understand the skill set of how to find your levers, it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, what we do is that in the city, in my city, I know what the average cost of construction is. Like, so before I even got into this deal, I said, square footage, this property was to the studs, right? So I was like, oh, this is gonna be a crazy rehab. It's gonna be like $30, $25, $30 a square foot. And I came up with a number. But after I got into the project and seen it, I said, okay, I was able to get a quote from a contractor. I want to go a little bit more in detail about who this contractor is and the specific role that this contractor plays, right? I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But the point is that the average, the home ARV on this specific property, all fixed up. I'm talking new floors, new lighting, paint, the whole 9 yards. Like a brand new house is $152,000. Let that sink in. When I buy a property, it's $64,000. And it's going to be worth $152,000. Now, the thing is that I caught this deal in the middle of the night. I was on MLS. I said, whoa, 64K. I'm like, I know that area. Man, stuff over there is selling for about $150. I called my real estate agent. I said, hey, I want to put an offer on this house. He said, do you want to go see it? I said, I want to go see it first thing tomorrow morning. Meet me there at 8 o'clock. I want to walk the property, and I want to walk it as quickly as possible. And I said, I want you to bring your computer with you because I want you to submit an offer right there on the site. The thing about real estate, is that success loves speed. Mm-hmm. Think about back in the day, like how I used to want to make a trade or something like that. You had to call, you had the broker then had to go. He had to call down, and then someone put us in a ticket. Somebody raised their hand, and then something was sold. Now, that ain't how stuff happens, right? Success loves speed. So with me, I tell my real estate agents, we're kind of still in this age-old game where it takes a middleman to close a deal in real estate. But I tell them, I say, hey, bring your computer. Because if I like this deal, and if I'm able to calculate these numbers on site, we make an offer before we leave here. Because that's how quick it has to be. Mm-hmm. Okay? So long story short, we say ARV of 152. Now, this is important. The after repair value is what the ARV means. Mm-hmm. We play by this thing called the 65%, right? I'm going to break the 65% rule down while you're looking at the screen. You see, mine says 68. You got a deal. Because basically, what I do is I play between 65 and 70. If the deal is really good, I'll do it at 68. Why would I do it at 68? Because I'm like, I know what's going on in that area. I know that this property can continue to rise in equity. But usually, I like to play at that 65. Here's why. When you go get a loan from a bank, what will they finance you up to for an investment property? Say you already own one house, you're trying to get a second one. What do you think they refinance you up to?
Like how much they will give you?
How much will they the value of the property? Like let's say it was worth $100 a property. How much do you think the bank will give you?
I feel like they will give you. I mean, of course, it's based on a lot of different things as far as your financials and your credit situation. But I'm thinking somewhere between 80 to 90%. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just assuming. I'm thinking 80. I would say somewhere between 75 to 90%. I'm thinking they would.
Okay. So you hit the nail on the head, right? It's actually 75%.
Okay.
Sometimes you have people that go 80 for an investment property.
Yeah.
Not an owner occupied property. That's different. That's FHA and all that stuff. No. When you come into this world, banks, lenders don't want to over leverage themselves into an asset. So they say, hey man, the most we'll lend to you is 75%. Remember that, 75%. Jordan, why do you go all in on 65%? How do you get to that 65%? Well, what I do is I take my purchase price plus my construction price, and I get a number of 104. That's my all-in cost. I take that 104 and I divide it by what? The ARV. What the property could be worth in the future. And by that, I get a percentage of 68%.
So you're dividing. So are you dividing the 104 by the purchase price?
Nope. I'm adding my purchase price of $64,000. I'm adding the construction budget of $40,000, and that gets me to 104.
Okay.
Then I say, this is what's going to take me to get into this deal. How much am I levered? Because see, leverage is key. Leverage, understanding what leverage is so important. Leverage is the key. So right now we're at 68%. But I just told you that a bank will refinance you at 75%. Right? So let me ask you a question. If I were to get this deal done at 68% or $104,000, and a bank will readily lend to me on this property once it's all fixed up, they'll lend to me 75%. What happens to the difference?
I mean, you will keep the spread essentially.
Keep the spread. Let me ask you another question. This is where it gets real fun. When you pay taxes, have you ever known to pay taxes on debt?
No, you don't pay. No, you wouldn't pay taxes on debt. No.
You pay income tax. You pay property. You're paying tax on and dollar figure or how do I say, like earnings.
Yeah,
you're paying tax
earned income.
Right?
Yeah,
earned income. Well, let me ask you something. If I use debt, which is $104,000, and I go get a larger debt of $114,000 because the asset can handle it, is that income?
No,
that's just the swapping of debt. I use debt to get more debt, but it just turns out that the debt at the end was higher than the beginning debt. So, who keeps the spread? Long story short, I do. Tax free. Okay. So, when you get that spread, naturally that difference between 68 and 75%, you got to pay your lender's interest, right? You got to pay whatever, if you borrow money to get the initial. So, for example, if you got $64,000 and you got $104,000 all in on your costs, maybe you had to go get a loan from somebody, right? So that you could buy the property. Well, they're going to charge you for that, right? If you want to buy the property, you got to buy it with a loan. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they're going to charge you some interest, right? So when it's all said and done, you got closing costs, right? All these things you have to have. You have to know the market. You have to know your numbers. Closing costs are usually somewhere about 5% of what the refinance is going to be. That 5% of that 75, right? It's going to be closing costs, right? When it's all said and done, I have a net BRRR. I call it a net BRRR because this is the amount of money that I'm either going to have to bring to the table or that I'm going to get cut a check for at closing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to execute this deal just like this, based on pure facts, I would receive a check at closing. Not only that, I would receive a house with 25% equity now. I would get a $550 check, and then I would turn around and have an asset that's now renting me, that's creating me cash flow residual every month.
Yeah, this is a great formula, bro. Just the way, and I understand now how you got the 68%. You essentially are taking the all-in cost, the $104,000 divided by the home after repair value of $152,000. And then that kind of gives you an idea of what your spread is going to be when you actually go to the bank for financing. Now, can you kind of talk about LTV, loan to value? The 68%, is that the LTV? I know you might have briefly talked about it, but how important is that as far as when you're coming back to the table to refinance, as far as making sure that your loan to value, that you're paying off, your financing lenders, or any private investors. So that way, when you come to the table, kind of walk me through how you're putting yourself in a position to have a check being cut out to you. And it could be within the numbers here, but if you don't mind kind of explaining like the LTV and how important that is, the loan to value.
Yeah, man. Loan to value, right? So again, it takes me back. I had a conversation I'll tell you this little short story. I had a conversation with somebody like, oh, Jay, you in real estate? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, I got this awesome opportunity. I'm getting ready to buy this house. And I'm like, good for you, man. That's awesome. He's like, well, I want you to, he was really hyped about it. He's bragging. He's an Airbnb. He does Airbnb, da-da-da. And this property, let's say, was worth $100. Let's just use basic numbers, $100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is equivalent to a whole. So let's say 100%. $100, 100%, right? The whole asset. I said, oh, okay, it's worth 100. I said, so does it need any work? He says, no, it's perfect. I said, wow, that sounds like a great deal. So you don't have to worry about construction. All you got to do is make sure that it comes under 75%, and that it's more closer to the 65%. Why? Because this is how you get a property for free.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
So we go on talking. He's like, oh, yeah, property worth $100. I'm about to buy it. I got an offer in at $80. I did some quick math. I said, hey, man, that's 80% leverage. What are you talking about? I said, that's 80% leverage. You're going to end up, not only are you going to end up overpaying for a property, right? So you're going to be underwater in equity because you're paying for something that ain't, you're not technically underwater, but you're what I would call, from a savvy investor, you're over leveraged.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not that you owe more on it, that's what it's worth, but you owe more than you should. And in case you were to catch a bad storm or something and you had a tenant vacancy in a couple of those, you'd be wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the name of the game in real estate, and as I learned from my mentors, is there's a lot of factors in this, but you want to make sure that you can get a good deal by means of equity. That's what you want. You want to be able to the sharpest guys get checks cut to them at closing. They don't come to the table having to put money down.
Yeah.
And how they do that is that they find assets that are worth $100 and they buy them and all fixed up and perfect, or they rebuild them themselves for like $65. And then they refinance. They get cut a check because there's a spread between 65 and 75, and they walk away with a property for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's that easy. It's not complicated at all. I swear to you, it's easy.
Yeah,
It's a simple math.
it is. And I wanted to get your mind frame on how you approach contracting. You know, a lot of people, when they have to go through rehabs during that process in the BRRRR method, they either have to reach out to a contractor, and a lot of times that contractor is going to, charge them, a fee to have that taken care of. And if you can try to eliminate that process and do it yourself, which you have done, it actually works a lot in your favor. So can you kind of talk about how you started to learn to do the contracting on your own, and also how it has really saved you a lot of money where you can pocket more of the spread when you go to the closing table? And just talk about that process a little bit.
No, that's a great lead in segue to where we are. So my mentor, he's based out of Philadelphia. He taught us to understand how to find deals for free.
Mm-hmm.
65%. You hire a contractor. You're like, hey, I got this much money. You can't do it for this. Then we got to go on to the next deal. We got to get a lower price, or contractor, I got to get a better contractor to get a better price. Well, you know what everybody's excuse is these days? Like, man, I can't find a contractor. Man, I can't find a contractor. Man. Meanwhile, the market continues to be great for investors who are in the game. So I said two things. I'm like, man, if I get in this game, I don't ever want to depend on somebody else to come do the work. I said, and because I came from the solar realm, I was a GC. I just wore a suit all day, right? I was the guy that was hiring and firing guys to put poles in the ground or to mount solar panels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said to myself, I'm like, I know how to put on a pair of boots, man, and go out and talk to some guy and then go back to the office, put on a suit. I'm going to build my own general contracting team. So what did I do? I found a guy, an older guy he was a really nice dude. He became a mentor to me. And I would just go and I would just sit around at sites. I would just go and would watch him. I would just study him. I would bring him lunch. I would bring the guys donuts, and I would just talk. I would sweep the floor. And I just started asking questions. How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? Why did you do that? Like, how did you do that? Where'd you get this guy? Who are these guys like? Then I would start going to trips to Menards or Lowe's with him, right? So then I see him at Lowe's and Menards, and I'm seeing him like walk down the aisle. He's like, hey. And I'm like, all these guys, please. Oh yeah, I've done deals with all these guys. This is my drywall guy over there, and this is my flooring guy over there. And I'm like, So these guys are like independent contractors that you put together, and you find a deal, and then they do the work for you, and then you get all the recognition because you're the GC.
Mm-hmm.
And it clicked. I was like, bro, this is just like solar. I'm like, all I gotta do is go hang out at the local improvement store, get to know some guys, and then before I know it, I'm like, hey, I got a project. And they're like, let me see it. I'm like, there it is. And they're like, I'm down. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So I just started hanging. I started being extra curious. Whenever I see somebody working on a house, I'll pull up on them real quick. Like, hey, how you doing? My name is Jordan Richardson. I own a company named Property Bros. We do single family, multifamily development. And I would like to check. So then what you find out is that when you hit them with that line, they're like, if they're not the people that are doing the work, they're probably the GC. And what that means is that they probably don't want to work with you because they already know that they're the ones that are just gathering up the resources and then doing the work for you. When in reality, that person didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Right? So I said, nah, I can't be caught in that trap. I got to go find the people that are actually putting the nail in the wall or pouring the concrete. I want those guys. So essentially, I build my team that way, and I put other people in a position to win. A really key strategy to our company is that it's all about ownership. So I own all of my subcontractors. They're their own businesses. They own. Everybody around me is owning, because the reality is that if you get an employee, employees really don't. I'm sorry, but my perspective is that when you're an employee, you can afford not to care, right? If things go bad or south that day, you're like, yeah, I get to go home tonight. I'm going to sleep well tonight because I know my check is coming next Friday. But when you're the owner,
more pressure.
You don't think like that. You think with a higher responsibility, and you say, nah, man, if this don't get done, I'm not going to sleep tonight, and my check ain't coming next Friday. Right. So I actually got some bustle. So with that being said, everybody around us, we found out how to hire people and how to build other people up to have their own company where they just work with us. They don't work for us. So what that does is that builds a sense of pride. So now people know when they come work with me, they're like, man, this dude gonna treat me like with respect. Like, he gonna have my money on time. He treats us like a business. Like, man, he's like, man, we gotta go get our shirts. You know, so we gotta get some gear swag so that people know that we're a business. We're working with property. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we built the team. And essentially, what it allows us to do is that, you know, if you Kevin said, man, I want to go buy this house. I want to go buy a house. The house costs $40,000. It's cost $40,000. It's worth $100,000 because it's a piece of crap and needs a whole bunch of work. I gotta go find me a contractor. You go out, you start Facebooking. Hey man, anybody can do work. Da da da. Everybody and their mama gonna respond and say, "Oh, I can do the work." You go out and get a quote. It's gonna be $60,000. 40 plus 60. You're over leveraged. The reason why we're able to do deals for $40,000 is because I'm the general contractor. I'm not marking my costs up to myself. And check this out. I'm licensed, bonded, and insured in my county area, right? So I am a legal general contractor. What happens if I come under budget on a project? I get paid again. Keep the difference. What happens if I come under 65%? I keep the difference. I get paid again. What happens when I refinance and I rent the property out? Now I'm getting paid every month. I'm getting paid 3 times in one deal. So again, that's why the structure, we're all vertically integrated.
Yep.
Everything for ourselves. We never go outside our circle. Even people that invest in our company, they're all here. They're all on my back. They're not like way up out there and all in a no man's land. We've really put emphasis on structuring a team that we don't have to reach too far before we have everything we need. And we just keep cycling.
Yeah, man. It's a great model, and it kind of really just hits on, like, that was actually what I was going to ask you about, the criteria, terms, and the network. But, I feel like you've done a great job explaining, like, how your company criteria is mainly, single family, multifamily properties. Specific areas in South Bend, Indiana, where you tailor your approach, you know your demographic, and then your terms. As we went over the numbers, you're looking at that 65 to 70% with the loan to value. And then with the network, you've done a great job of surrounding yourself around the right people that can help you get the right deal. But I think that you're doing a great job of empowering people that are working with you. And it's not more a person working under you, but you all are working together, and everyone is holding their own. They have their own business. Whether they're an independent contractor, or whatever the case may be. So I just think that it's a great model, man. And everyone listening, this is the type of approach that you want to have, when it comes to, putting yourself in a position to get in the property and maintaining your properties over a sustained period of time.
It's the investor mindset versus like casually, like, oh, I want to buy a house. Like, I want to buy a house every year. Like, nah, man, like, I'm so integrated into the market, into the business structure that, man, we're going on our 7th acquisition in 6 months.
Congrats on that, bro. That's a good
like We're hungry, you know what I mean? Like, and so I say we because I was able to bring one of my cousins on board. He lost his job, man, but like maybe a month before his wedding, and I told him, I said, bro, like, and I was shaking. I was like, man, this could be a blessing or a curse, bro. Like, and if you want to get it, we can get it, but we're gonna have to bring it. You know what I mean? Like, I just quit my job. Like, I was like, hey, I want to do this full time. I want to throw myself at it 100%. I'm not looking back. And I told him, I was like, either this is a blessing or a cursing, bro. But if you ask me, it's a blessing because we need each other. So let's get it. And basically, you know, he's looking at basically as I continue to develop the business on the development side and looking at how to go acquire these properties and keep building, keep enlarging the portfolio. Who's going to be the GC that's managing these deals? Him. So basically put him in a position where he's like, hey, man, he's like, you know, I'll take over that company. And I was like, thank you. Now you get it. Now you get it. Like, thanks. Now you want to step in ownership because you understand, like, where the value is. Once you own something, that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I'm thankful every day that I'm able to be able to add value just to my cousin's life, but anybody that we touch hands with, anybody that we work with, anybody we buy a house from, anybody we refinance and put into the property, like we're touching lives on so many levels just with like having the development firm called Property Bros. You know what I mean? Like it's expansive and like this next year is about to be crazy. We're going up.
2022, bro. I already know, man. Like I just love these conversations because it's generational wealth, man, especially when you can get your family involved and you can keep it in the family. And, you know, even like Black brothers such as me and yourself, you know, having these conversations, collaborating and doing business together. I think that that's the purpose of, you know, the reason why I create the content that I do, the reason why I surround myself around like-minded individuals like yourself is because, you know, we are focused on creating opportunities for our family and putting them in positions of ownership because, you know, the system is flawed, you know, and we not going to be the person that's just going to be working for the man and don't have anything such as ownership for ourselves. So I love these conversations, for sure, man.
And you know what? Just like a little snippet on that, like, we say that the system is flawed, right? The only flaw in the system is that the education don't get passed down. That's what the flaw in the system is. Once you have the education, once you have the know-how, man, the system is a beautiful thing. It's working. It'll make you want to pay taxes.
Exactly.
It'll make you want because you just understand. Like, I just understand the system. I'm not here to like rework. No. I'm here to pass the education. But I gladly pay taxes now because like I don't feel like I'm getting taken advantage of.
Exactly.
It's something I'm into. So like it's all in the education.
Yeah, bro, it is the education, man. But I see you have do you actually want to walk us through like the visuals of like the before and afters of because I think that's another important point of seeing the vision, you know, of the property and it's good to know the numbers, but when you actually put it, you know, you actually got the property and you're rehabbing it and you're seeing the value increasing because of the rehab. Kind of take us through them before and after, you know, pictures.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. Yeah, man. This is a wild. So, I mean, as you can see, I mean, the project was really pretty much partially demo all the way down to the studs. The flooring that was going in really wasn't. I mean, it was a mess, man. It was a mess. But that's how we like them. This is what I prefer. I like this because we can get these for cheap. So, you know, this was once a kitchen. You can see the plumbing that was running right there. This is what we call a low bearing beam. So this is what happens when somebody's like, oh, I want to open the place up and I want it to be all modern and open. They have to put a big low bearing beam in. And that's what this big piece of wood is. And that carries point load. It distributes weight to the outside of the house so that you can open it up so that your house doesn't cave in. That's important. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it was pretty much to the studs. You know, trash everywhere.
Was it how many floor? I mean, was it the upstairs and the downstairs? How many stories, or was it all one level?
No, this is there. It is right there.
Okay. I see.
Yep. So what's unique about this? I know people you probably saying like, "Oh wow, man, the house looks sweet on the outside." Well, what's happening right now in the marketplace is that just like crypto, just like the stock market, everybody and their mama think that they can go flip a house on the side, and that's where experienced investors are just waiting, like, let things get a little hot, let the market take a little dip, and watch what happens. And all the equities you bought, all the coins you bought, as soon as the market get a little hot and you dump it, the big dogs that are just waiting on it, pick it right up. And that's what happened with the situation. 64,000 the house had. New siding, new roof, and new windows. Wow. So I said, okay, well, that's enough to get me enticed. So this is what it looked like when I bought it on the outside. And in the marketplace right now, it's what it looks like on the inside. What you're seeing is a lot of this. Like I'm buying 3 properties next week where one of them in particular is kind of funny, but it's not funny. But it's like, nah, this is what happened when novice investors get into the game. Like didn't know their numbers, didn't do the research, saw something, I'm gonna just buy that,
So are you saying that they sold it too quickly? Is that what you said? Like they'll buy a property and they'll sell it too quickly?
No, what I'm saying is that like you have a novice investor that comes in and says, I want to flip a house or I want to remodel a house on the side, and I'm gonna hire contractors and I'm gonna do all this. Well, they go and they buy a house for $20,000 like this guy did, and he starts putting siding on it and he puts roofing on it, and then he runs into one mistake, and because he didn't know the numbers, it's like, dang, that's gonna cost me $20,000. I wasn't expecting that. What do? I sell the house. I got to get out from under it. Just like you do with a stock or a crypto. I can't take that loss. I got to get out of it. He said, okay, I got to get my money's worth on it. So he's done all this work, added all this value, and now he's got to get out of it at a loss. So what happens? It's experienced investors come in, swoop it up because they know the numbers. They know how to spot opportunity. The house worth $150,000. All I gotta do is put $40,000 into that house, and I can stay below 75%, and I can get a free house just in 5 minutes off the rip. And you pull the trigger and you go into it. So I'm gonna show you now what it looks like now. So So a hot color right now. So a hot color is something that's kind of like native to our company is that we do a lot of grays. So gray is a hot color for anybody that's trying to flip a house, right? When our appraisers come to the houses, man, like they always ask, like, what are you planning to do with it? Are you going to flip it or refinance? But most of the time they already know. So when the appraiser walked into this house, he was like, what are you doing with this again? I'm like, oh, I'm going to rent it Section 8. They're like, what? Like, are you crazy? And I'm like, it makes sense to me. Like, it's like when the pandemic hit, they didn't stop paying. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, oh, Section 8 people tear up your house. Well, guess what? That's why I'm the general contractor. I know how to fix my own stuff. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, people that tear up houses and, you have regular people that are not on Section 8 that tear up houses. Like, I don't like giving people in a financial situation a bad name because of what happened. You don't let the whole, like a couple of apples ruin the whole bunch. Right. Section 8 is a great thing to do if you can add a place, give somebody a place to live. But especially when you go over the top and the numbers still work, like, bro, it's such a good feeling. I'm like, wow. So look, we went through, redid all the floors, redid all the trim. Another signature of ours, you can see up top, like where there's usually drywall on the ceiling. We chose not to put drywall on the ceiling. Part of like me being renewable energy and wanting to bring quality of that over to this industry is like, why do we use materials for dumb things? Things that we really don't need. If you go to into like newer urban style houses, everything is left open. They put concrete on the floors are poured concrete. They're not laying tile. Like they're literally doing modern things on purpose. And people are like, oh, that's so savvy. But it's like, nah, it's just you didn't need it. Right? Like you never needed it. I don't know whose idea it was to put something on the ceiling when like I'm like, it's just a ceiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
So this property is a 3-2. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. One of the bathrooms are on the main floor. We did that because why? This is a big question we get. Whenever we can add value to a home, we only do things that properties that add massive value. This property was a 3-1 when I bought it. I turned it into a 3-2. Why? Because if I do a 3-1, there's other houses that sold in this neighborhood for 130, 135. But when you add a bedroom or you add a bathroom and there's not another house in that area, what do you have to do to what does an appraiser have to do to complete his market analysis?
He's got to raise the price.
He's got to go look elsewhere.
Yeah, look, yep.
Where the property values are higher.
Yep.
Where he may be close to Notre Dame now. And it's like, gotcha. They had to go push out and go find another property that's comparable to mine. I don't know many properties on the MLS that look like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what that does, or at least in that area, so what that does is that goes tick, 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 tick. And now we start to set the trend line. I'm going to talk about trend lines in a minute.
Yeah. Another stock term. Another stock.
Come on, man.
Chill.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm really excited about it. We actually pulled out of it this week, and it's already leased up. The tenant moves in on the 1st.
That's really good.
Refinance, and get this, the refinance has already started. We walked into this deal on August 31st. We walked out 11/19. That's not even 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, that's really, and that was actually another thing I was thinking about when you was talking about the Section 8 housing. How do you go about finding tenants, in the process of while you're completing your rehab to make sure that you're going to be renting it out? What's that process like as far as finding tenants and getting that occupancy?
Man, I go down to the local place, and I just talk, man. I'm just talking, getting to know the people. I had a meeting with the head of the housing authority. She's an African American lady. She was so sweet. She was from down south, man. Remind me of my mom. We sat and talked for 2 hours. She's a young man. So I had to get signed up with them. I had to get approved. Maybe sometimes you have to take a class to become a landlord in your city or whatever for Section 8.
Yeah.
He said, man, we have to follow the bylaws. When somebody comes in, we have to recommend. We can't steer them to you or whatever. But she goes like, if people knew more about what you were doing, you would never have a problem finding a tenant. And it's my job to still screen the tenants and all of that. It's my job to do that. But the reality is that we'll never not have a tenant in a place.
Mm-hmm. So do you think Section 8, it's easier for people to find tenants going that route rather than just, I guess traditionally people would just, make a post or put it on one of these,
It's not about being easier because that question is that it's the same, right?
Yeah.
Because you still have to be the person. What I mean by why I prefer 90%, 85% of my portfolio to be affordable housing is because it's a government check.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you.
Say less. I know it's gonna be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, that makes sense, man.
It ain't really too much more complicated than that.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I guess, one of the last things that I was kind of thinking about is this concept of looking at the property as a liability and looking at the debt as an asset, especially when you're able to lock in debt for 15, 30 years at a fixed rate with interest rates being as low as 2 to 3%. Do you ever have that mentality when you're going into buying a property that I'm holding this thing for the long term and I'm trying to hold this debt for as long as possible and getting the cash flow for as long as possible? I feel like that's how millionaires think, billionaires think.
This is the thing, right? So there's a give and a take.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put this on Instagram.
It's a give and a take.
Hold on. I'm about to give somebody some life lessons, Ron. It's give and take.
Yeah, I
Right.
definitely agree, man. I think whenever you can put yourself in a position to get that at a low interest rate, that's not going to cost you a lot as far as you don't have a high interest rate. So you're going to be able to pay it off, quickly and to have it for a long period of time. I think it's a great strategy, man, to lock it in and, continue to like what we was talking about with how, you're just using debt, against each other, and you're not really having to, pay taxes, you know what I'm saying? So legally, you know what I'm saying? You're doing it legally. But it's just, it's a smart strategy. A lot of people use real estate, when it comes to different tax deductions and all that types of stuff. So
what it comes down to, like my belief about let's first of all talk about debt.
yeah,
Right. Let's talk debt first and foremost. You have people that say, get out of debt, get out of debt, get out of debt. You gotta have zero debt. This is consumer debt.
yeah,
because consumer debt, because we've been groomed as consumers, the only thing we know how to do is consume.
Mm-hmm.
So then we borrow other people's money to buy and consume things that perish.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No.
That means that you continually, man, I'm going to just say this right now because we're on the thing. Like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon, all these books, these old, dusty, paperback books that you can now get in digital copies and even video copies, all talk about it. They all talk about buying pointless stuff, consumer stuff with other people's money. And then you got people that are saying, get out of debt, get out of debt. You got to get out of debt. No. There's nothing wrong with debt if you're using debt to produce assets.
Yep.
That then covers the cost of that debt and then some.
Yep.
So the re-education that must happen, especially in our community, is that we need to understand, first of all, what debt is, and then we need to understand how to utilize debt outside of just consumer reasons, right? My mentor posted a picture on his Instagram and he got $80,000 in credit card debt alone. But he used that $80,000. He may have an $80,000 balance, but he's produced 6 properties out of that $80,000 balance that are now cash flowing and bringing him in $600 a month each. Do you think he's worried about that 0% $80,000 credit card balance?
No.
But I'd like to have that. You know what I mean? The point is that so when we talk about debt, we have to understand what the point of debt is and how to utilize it correctly. We don't want to run up credit card consumer debt, buying cars and going on vacations and doing all that stuff unless it's a business expense. Unless you want to do business on that vacation. That's when I take vacations, when it's to do business and I just have to enjoy myself at the same time. The point is that like we have to rethink about how we utilize and think about financial awareness and responsibility. So, for example, when I go get, a 3% loan, a 5% loan on an investment property for 30 years when debt is super cheap, knowing that debt don't always stay cheaper, that what? It's going to cycle eventually. Eventually it's pick up and debt is going to be expensive again.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I'm going and I'm refinancing all of my assets with debt so that I can take that debt, utilize it, tap into my equity and go just keep buying more assets. I'm buying assets with debt. I'm not buying dumb stuff with debt.
Yeah, like liabilities.
That's exactly. So we don't buy liabilities with debt. That's how you get into the rat race.
Yeah.
That's a book. That's a book, by the way. It's called The Rat Race. That's how you get into the rat race by buying liabilities with debt. You buy your personal liabilities with other people's money. Like when those liabilities ain't producing money to pay them people back. You gotta go get a job. Now you gotta go pay it.
You're right. You're absolutely right, bro. It's about, relearning and educating yourself, because I know for myself growing up, a lot of times just from personal experiences, I would use debt to buy whatever, like, clothes, things that are just shoes, things that just devalue and that don't have any type of value that's going to appreciate in value. And I think you have people like Dave Ramsey that will come out and say like all debt is bad debt. But I think with Dave Ramsey, he's focused on a particular demographic of people that are actually they're in like credit card debt that's really they're buying liabilities, like they're using debt to buy liabilities, so it's holding them back where they can't buy assets. But Robert Kiyosaki, he'll say like, I understand that, you have to the some of the wealthiest people, they use debt to buy assets, they use real estate, and they purchase it with other people's money, and they don't want to use their own money. So the people.
One of my mentors told me something, bro, and it really when I did my first deal, man, this summer, he was an investor / mentor to me. Mm-hmm. He said, Jordan, I'm gonna tell you something right now. He says, I'm gonna give you this money to invest, and I'm gonna partner with you on this. He goes, but I just want you to know that most investors, anybody can put a deal together and think a deal is a good deal. Anybody can raise money. Anybody can. He goes, but the real sharp people are the ones that know how to get the money back. Mm-hmm. He goes, that's what'll make you a wealthy man, when you understand how to not only raise the capital, but then give the investors a return and turn yourself into a living ATM machine. Mm-hmm. That'll be the day. So get this, like, when we're looking at it from that perspective, now I'm like, I'm an ATM machine. Right? I'm literally a walking, breathing ATM machine, because I understand how to take debt, turn it into an asset, repay that debtor with interest based on the new value of that asset. That asset has now created me cash flow that's going to benefit me generationally. Then now it's going to, because I bought it at 75% out of 100%, there's equity there. Ding, ding, ding. So now if things were, let's go completely, upside down. I got to get rid of this. I got 25% equity in the deal that I could sell and still profit. Right. So again, like that re-education of understanding, like not just real estate in general, but like how to buy things. Yeah. What are you buying? Like, why are you buying? How are you entertaining yourself? You know what I mean? Like, are you investing in yourself and allowing you to pick up on these types of strategies that you can sit back and be like, wow, man, like, yeah, I can go buy 3-4 houses in a year. Real easy if you understand the game. Mm-hmm. And still work a full-time job and still love that full-time job. Like, see everybody that's out there that's grinding, doing your full-time jobs and then doing this stuff on the side or investing on the side. Good, man. More cash flow, the better. Like, more cash flow, the better. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, tap in, learn something, be all about it, get in there, man, and really learn this financial system, because with what you preach a lot about, with currency changing and all these things changing hands,
inflation.
Bro, like, we are in a very, and I feel like in the last couple of years, people have been saying it's like we're in a very, very pivotal time. Yeah. Like things are about to go light speed, man, in terms of like how we interact and how we think and how what we used to do back in the day, like it won't be like that always. So I think now is the time to definitely hone in, pick up, depending on, school and education to educate you and educate yourself.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just like one other thing that I wanted to like hit on about that of what you're talking about is just like when you think about like the banking system, they pretty much use that to their advantage. They're taking the dollars that, we're putting into a bank account. And they're flipping it to be able to make. They're flipping. They're loaning essentially the
big game.
They're loaning.
Big game. Let me steal this one. I love this.
Bro.
I had somebody hit me up the other day and was like, "Hey Jay, I'm gonna invest in, man. It's a family member. Man, it's like, how do I know this is safe? And like, I don't want to lose my money. I had $20,000 sitting in the bank account for 2 years.
Dang.
I said, ooh, Woo! I can't wait so I can tell you how much money you lost over the last 2 years. Because by your money just sitting there, even if inflation was at 3%, which has been had not an average for the last, I don't know, however long, it's a known investor strategy that if your money's not making 3%, you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
Now with inflation, what they're saying, that because of the pandemic or what happened, you're past that 3%. Now you're bridging, what is it, 6?
Yeah, it's at 6% right now. Yep.
6%. So that means if you're not getting at least a 6% return on your money, your buying power is not even growing. It's actually staying the same or declining.
Diminishing. Mm-hmm.
So if you can go put your money in a bank account of $20,000 for 2 years, you can go put this $20,000 in a bank account and then turn around and ask them for a loan and they'll charge you 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Because the name of the game, they charge you 6% when you just gave them $20,000 for free.
Yep.
Because the name of the game is learning how to take somebody else's asset and turn it into a bigger asset. They take your money and turn it into bigger money.
Yep. Yep. I mean, hey, man, that's all, folks. That's all, folks. We just drop game, and I hope everyone out there is listening. You know, these are how wealthy people think. These are how banks operate. These, you know, financial institutions. So you have to get on the right side of the playing field, and you have to understand that, you know, use debt to your advantage, use it intelligently, but use it to buy assets, because everyone in this game that have made millions, they understand the importance of using other people's money and not using none of their money. OPM.
That skill set, man. I hope if anything sticks tonight, man. Again, my mentor told me, he said, the day that you learn how to raise money, collect money, encourage, like build a business around like turning assets into bigger assets and then paying those people that helped you create or that lent you the asset, the money, you'll never be broke again.
And that's the gem right there, you know, just making sure that you're paying back the people plus interest that you're loaning the money from. So that way they're going to want to continue to keep loaning you money, and you just keep the cycle going. You keep paying your investors, you pay your, you know, hard money lenders if in a real estate game, and you continue to build wealth and equity for yourself. So yeah, man, I want to tell everyone, you know, definitely like, subscribe, and share this video. It doesn't cost anything to do it. We do this out of wanting to educate people and wanting to help and give you game on how to operate and being able to be financially intellectual, because like Jordan mentioned, it's not that the system is flawed, but it's that the education isn't passed down. And what we want to do is educate, to pass this information along so you can take some insight and to be able to apply it and take action with the information. And Jordan, how can people connect with you on your social media and just learn about things you're doing with Property Bros and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously a lot of the things that I'm tied to is Jungle Rose related. So Jungle Rose is a clothing brand that I started a while back, and now it's become a lifestyle brand. Honestly, man, to what I'm doing right now with real estate, I'll eventually branch off and start that on independent social media. But with Jungle Rose, you can find me at Mr. Jungle Rose, Mr._Jungle Rose. And there I post in all of my stories, everything. I mean, I'm in the field every day looking at real estate, looking at investment, whether it be, you know, equities, coins, real estate, whatever. I'm there. But primarily it's me walking in boots, walking through the trenches and the trenches of real estate, man. I love it. Yeah,
man. Well, I definitely love seeing your journey, man. Keep going. Keep executing at a high level. Everyone definitely check out his Instagram and look at everything that he's doing with his clothing brand, Jungle Rose, and also what he's doing with the real estate game. And if you all are listening to this on the podcast outlets, definitely rate, leave a review, subscribe. And also, if you want to see the visuals to this on the podcast, go to my YouTube. And Jordan broke down just the before and after pictures of the real estate property in South Bend. So definitely take a look at that if you want to actually see the visuals. And Jordan, I appreciate your time, man, on this Friday evening. Thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Peace, y'all.